Iate si pelletieri initiate mai deschisni initially. Billigana Bastachini, Kinlachini Dashache, Billigana Dashanale. Welcome back to Res Ball. There's finally been actual Detroit basketball for 5 games. And Andy and I are going to talk about the offense, the defense, and just our overall reaction these first 5 games. Let's get started right about now. Andy, 5 games in, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good, which a lot of people wouldn't say that because the offense doesn't look great. Um, they've been very undisciplined with fouls and even just emotional reactions. Like Duran got like a second technical and ejected from a game where it's like, you can't do that, man. Um, but overall, to see who they've played, how they've looked, for me, this is about what I've expected. And with Ivy being out and Levert being out, they're actually like I'm more optimistic than I thought I would be at this point because Cade hasn't even looked good for a couple of games. And honestly, if he doesn't look good, they have no chance, is how I feel with this team. So I'm actually optimistic with what I've seen.
Yeah, we're going to get into a lot of that you got here. Let everybody know where they can find you online before we continue on.
You can find me on Twitter at D_D_Pistons_fan.
So, my reactions to the first 5 games are this is going to sound weird, but I'm glad they got jacked by the Cavs, the best team in the East by far. Like, I don't think anybody's going to think that's a hot take or really kind of argue it. I'm glad they got jacked in that game just to show them, like, all right, if you want to get there, you still got a ways to go. But I'm also glad that they smacked down the Magic, who also really have offensive problems. And it gives you a good litmus test of like, okay, we're struggling, but we're not struggling like that. And when your superstar is like whining the whole game, oh my gosh, the Paulo game is starting to I've soured pretty quick on Paulo, not to go down this rabbit hole, but I really liked him coming out. But man, there was one foul in particular where Paulo goes up, he's shooting, and as he's shooting, he's yelling at the ref, going, "Hey!" And then, like before he even gets the shot off, and it's like, really, like that's what we're doing. And the wow, the awesome best moment last night, which I do think encompasses pretty much the Pistons so far, only in 5 games is when Paulo is telling Tobias, "You're trash. You can't guard me. You don't even belong out here." And then he bricks the 2 free throws at the line. It's just like ball don't lie, man. Right? He still prevails here, and our superstar also doesn't just have a gigantic jump shot problem where he's bricking every three, even when he's wide open. So, yeah, it's a good litmus test where Donovan Mitchell is clearly still just like annihilating this team using just a scoop shot. Really, he didn't even have to get three going, and it's like, okay, we don't have that. And then on this side with Paulo, it's like, okay, we also don't have that. So we're still somewhere squarely in the middle. So it's good. Been a good 5 games that doesn't get us too high, doesn't get us too low, and still pretty much gets our projections of either somewhere between 42 and 44 wins still, right?
Yes, and I think the Cavs loss was good for just people who, and of course it was the second game on a back to back, but it shows people
The
like
Pistons stay consistent no matter who's on the team.
they when you look at the Cavs, like I would say the Cavs are an elite team in the East, and the Pistons are not close to that level. And I know some people are thinking, well, a move here or there, and we could be right there. No, there's a big gap, and I think that shows. And last year you brought it up for the playoffs, how the Knicks made us look better because they were our best matchup. But against the better teams in the league, the Pistons were not very good. And I think that still holds. And I'll bring up Duran for a second just because there are teams that he struggles against that we know there's players he struggles against. And that's always going to be a huge problem for us until he's able to play better. Because there's certain teams, like against Cleveland, we always know he's going to struggle. Like he struggles a lot with Cleveland.
Yeah, for sure. He's gonna be his own little thing. trying to do the because I put emojis down in my own Google Doc, and anybody that knows the emoji with the swirly eyes and the guy that looks like he's like kind of dizzy and kind of sick at the same time, that's the emoji I put for the offense, which is what we're going to get into first. My number one thing with this team through 5 games on offense, because the offense has been brutal at times. Like you said, if K doesn't get going, forget it. They have no chance and they look pretty lost. My first thing with the offense is these guys need to understand what an open 3 point shot looks like. I cannot tell you how many times. And I watched, let's see, I rewatched the Cavs game twice. I rewatched all the games except for the Bulls game twice. And there were so many times. Asar, even Cade, there was that funny one in the Magic game where Beef Stew was like, I don't want to shoot this. I'm going to pass. I'm going to pass. And everybody else was like, no, man, you shoot it. And he's like, okay, I got to shoot it. And then it went in. I think it was at the end of the first quarter, right? Things like that. But there are exceptions to this. Duncan knows what an open 3 point shot looks like. He's had a really tough time getting open shots, but he's still a professional. He's the fantastic movement shooter, maybe the best movement shooter right now. And he's still been able to get it off and get going no matter what. Stu, for the most part, I mean, that one is the funny version of it. But Stu really has been like, okay, I'm taking the shot. I'm taking the shot. I'm taking the shot. And I told you, Andy, you should get excited about it. Because even though it's still not like the volume that we want, every time he's taking it, you're like, yep, take that one. Or, yep, take it even if you're not open, but it's still the right one to take with guys closing out. And the very, very, very surprising one, which we love, is Ron Holland. Ron Holland, no, without any hesitation. He does hesitate, I'm going to say, a little bit from above the break, but from the corners, he is like ready to fire off no matter what. And I guess, well, I guess I'll circle back to Rod here in a minute. Or maybe I'll say it right now. I'm going to confidently say now Ron Holland is going to be a good 3 point shooter. You know why, Andy?
Why?
His misses, they don't go left, they don't go right. He hasn't airballed a single ball so far. Steph Curry's the last one to say this, but so many great shooters say this is you want to miss short and long. You don't want to miss left and right. Because if you miss short and long, meaning like the ball goes too far or the ball doesn't get there, but it's still on its target. That's the point, is trying to get it on the target. And again, anybody that wants to see this, go look at Ron's misses. They are either short or they are long. And that is exactly what you need to do. They're never off target. So yeah, that's why I'm saying Ron Holland is going to be a good 3 point shooter. And I think he's shooting 33% right now, is what I remember when I looked at it earlier today. From three.
33.3.
Yep, there you go. And he's taken 21 threes in 5 games, which is 4.2 3 point attempts per game. So the 4 threes per game you wanted Stu to take, Ron is taking, right? So now the Stu stuff doesn't matter so much, where Stu is taking 2.4, and then Ron's taking 4.2, and then you factor in Duncan 6.2, and then Cade 6.6, and Tobias is 4.6. You're starting to get an idea, but again, too many open threes that are being passed up. And would you guess what rank the Pistons are in terms of 3 point attempts in the NBA? There are 30 teams in the NBA. Where do the Pistons rank in terms of 3 point attempts?
Let's go 27.
21st. So they're not they're not cataclysmically bad, but they still are in the bottom 10th in the NBA. They're definitely not getting them up enough. And the star factors into that, sure, but again, you go watch the tapes. It's really Duncan, Stu, and Ron that are like, okay, I'm firing these away. Everybody else, obviously, a star like barely takes them, although he's taking more than I thought he would. Tobias has turned looks down, and Javonte Green, which we'll get into here in a minute, not so much. And then obviously Duran doesn't take threes at all. So yeah, it's a lot of heavy lifting from three for Duncan, number one. And then Ron has started to pick up the slack, and then Stu, and then after that, it's just kind of like, all right, I guess I have to take a three if not. And even for Cade, again, 6.6 threes per game might sound like a lot, but that is a 24.2% 3 point attempt rate, I think. Let me look at it again. No, 34.4%, excuse me. So Cade has a 34.4% 3 point attempt rate, which is better. It's what we wanted, right? We wanted to say around 35% of his shot should come from three, 30 to 35. So it's still in line. But when Duncan's the only other guy coming close to that volume, also, yeah, it's not a good thing.
So, in regards to the 3 point shooting, like Cade is not shooting the long shooting the three-pointer very well at all right now. Um, that's one of the reasons why I do believe that Chaz should be getting more playing time. He should be in the lineup because he can shoot the ball, because he can space the floor. Um, that would be my biggest criticism in terms of that. I am happy to see Stu getting, 2.4 3-point attempts a game. He should honestly be getting twice as much because he's behind Duncan Robinson. He's the best 3-point shooter we have,
But
which
his
is
percentage is going to suffer. He's shooting 58.3% from three, Andy. Can he really take a down hit?
yes. I don't care if the percentage goes down for him to get the volume up because it looks good when he's shooting the ball. Like he's looking good. He needs to get more up. And like you said, for all the players, they need to shoot it more. Like some of these possessions we have where we end up with a turnover or a mid-range shot or we don't even get a shot off. It's like, come on, guys, that open three you passed up, that was the best thing we should have done.
Yeah, this is why people praise Joe Mazzulla in Boston so much, is like that type of volume, especially from the role players. Like obviously Tatum and Brown are going to do what they do in the mid range and attacking the rim, but that's why the Boston system works so well. Is all the role players came in and realized, okay, I'm not the star. I got to space out the floor and help pull guys away from there. And just after a while, it's going to end up working out in the long run. So yeah, some other things on the 3-point shot. Who is the best shooter on this team percentage wise, Andy?
You mean who's taken like enough shots to like
Yeah, who's
count?
taken it or who's played at least 20, like 15, 20 minutes a game?
So I would say Stu has the highest percentage and then Duncan Robinson.
Yeah, so it's Stu at 58.3%. And then Javante Green does just sneak in with 16.2 minutes per game and shooting 41.7% from three. And then we got Duncan at 38.7 and then Ron at 33.3%. And then after that, it's like Chaz and so really it's like in your regular rotation, you only have two guys between Isaiah Stewart and Duncan Robinson who are shooting above 33% from three. That's part of the problem. The Pistons also rank number one in an offensive category, Andy, through 5 games. At least now we're recording this on October 30th, 2025. What is the category that the Pistons lead the NBA and they are number one on offense in this category?
Is this a good thing?
They're number one in it, Andy.
Offensive rebounding?
They are not. They're third in offensive rebounding. It's a very good guess, but they are number one in 2-point
Turnovers?
shot attempts.
Oh,
So this was why I got couple it with the 3-point shot. Is you're like, well, that's not so bad, whatever. It's like, no, they still take they're 21st in 3-point attempts, but they're number one in 2-point attempts, and that's even worse because they're only 14th in 2-point makes, and they're 27th in 2-point percentage. This is why we're saying they got to take more 3-point shots, and it's not like everybody we're asking. Asar is the only one that I think you and I are like, that's a liability, right? But like Tobias, nah, man, keep firing away. You're good enough, right? Ron Holland, obviously, Stu, like you said, just keep firing away. And then whoever the eighth, ninth man is, Karras, Javante Green, Dennis Jenkins, Chaz Linear, this just reinforces your point about Chaz because we're like, out of those guys I just mentioned, who's the one that we know is going to be like, fire away, fire away, fire away from three? It's Chaz. And he's surely capable enough. And in the minutes we have seen, he's stared down the gun barrel of Kevin Durant. He stared down the gun barrel of Donovan Mitchell, and he didn't get taken advantage of. So, I think, yeah, the Chaz one, this just leads more into it. Then it leads us into our second point. Why Javante Green? Well, Andy and I talked about this a little before we started recording because we want to make it clear. We're not saying Javante Green is trash. We're not saying he's not an NBA player. He is an NBA player, absolutely. I looked up his G League stats because I thought I remembered somebody telling me he like really shot the ball well in three from the G League. And then I looked and I'm like, he's only played 12 G League games in his 3 or 4 year career. He's always been on somebody's roster. I mean, they haven't, needed him to develop. So it's clear he earns the trust of his teams. And it's just like the more you watch of him, the more to me it's like, yeah, you can't say like get this guy out of here or whatever. I just said he's shooting 41.7% from three, and for your eighth, ninth man, that's what you want him to do. But do you have any idea what Javante Green's shooting from 2-point range right now, Andy?
I just knew from three it was 41.
26.7% from 2-point range for Javante Green. And how does that affect his true shooting percentage? Well, Javante Green His shooting for true shooting percentage, 44.1% true shooting percentage. That is 12th on the team. The only people who have a worse true shooting percentage than Javonte Green right now are Karis LeVert, who's only played 2 games, and then Bobby Clinton and Colby Jones, who've like barely played any time at all. So out of the guys that have gotten regular minutes, Javonte Green's been catastrophically bad on offense. This is why I group him in with the offensive things. He's missed like 3 or 4 wide open looks from point blank range, like inexcusable misses. That's bad. And then on defense, like he really has been taken advantage of because he's been put at power forward at some spots. Like they had him guard Paulo for whatever reason. Paulo's like 6'10, Javonte Green's like 6'4, 205. They had him guard Matas in that first Bulls game. And it's just like, I don't know what you think is going to happen here. Matas was like, cool, like you guys not even going to block my shot, so I'm just going to get over it. And like I said, I want to say this again. We're not saying Javonte Green's not an NBA player. It's just he's not an NBA player for this team. He doesn't fit. Does he space the floor? Not really. Like I understand what his percentage is, but go watch the tape. He is wide open on all those shots. Every time he shoots a three, it's because his defender is cutting off Cade Cunningham and double teaming him. Because his defender is coming down and helping on the Tobias Harris post up. His defender is coming down and trying to cut off an Asar or Jalen Duren drive. Nobody's guarding him. So he better be knocking down those shots. And even though he is knocking down those shots and supposedly spacing the floor, he's still 44.1% true shooting percentage. Does Javonte Green space the floor? Can he handle the ball, Andy? Yeah, I haven't seen him make one like drive type play. Does he create easy shots for his teammates, Andy?
No.
Can he guard his position?
Well, coach has him guarding like all positions.
Yeah, so this is my point. Is like if this guy is still going to get cooked, if you're still guarding him in weird positions and watching the tapes again, I'm like, oh, it's clear teams are hunting him and they're trying to get him in these mismatch situations. If that guy's still not just going to be like the Chaz firing away, or even like the Dennis Jenkins, who's been a fantastic defensive playmaker in the times that they've given here, as well as setting up easy looks for other guys. I just don't get the Javonte Green, why he's the guy that they're like, okay, at the end of the bench, let's bring this guy in. What do you think, Andy?
So I think he's just the guy that the coach loves in terms of he has hit some shots that were timely. He has made some plays that were timely. But when you look at the overall statistics, you're like, it's not good. In some ways, it's kind of like Dennis Schroeder, where it's like people remember this big shot that he hit or this big thing that he did. And yeah, he did. He made some big shots at certain times. But when you look at the entire game, it's like, man, if he would have played a better percentage for the entire game, we wouldn't have needed that shot in that moment because we'd have a bigger lead. So I get why he gets that playing time, and maybe JB doesn't want to play younger guys or unproven guys, and it just makes him feel more comfortable. But I agree with you. I don't understand why he's getting those minutes. And yes, Karis LeVert was out, but even for me, I question Karis LeVert getting the minutes over Dennis Jenkins and over Chaz Lanier. And I know people will think that I'm crazy. But for me, it's like, no, Chaz is a better shooter and Dennis Jenkins is a better point guard. It's like, so if we need a specific job at that time, put the guy who's better in for that job. I think they would outperform Karis LeVert, but the future will let us know what happens with that.
Yeah, and again, we didn't want this to be picking on Javonte Green because again, we don't think he's a bad player. We just think he's a bad fit for this team, especially when what's behind him is Chaz, like I said, the volume 3 point shooter, and a Dennis Jenkins that you just said. Apparently, I can't think, and even the Karis LeVert, which it, I don't necessarily want to bring up the Karis thing, but I do want us to stick a pin in like, is he already like done? Because he's only played 2 games, right? So again, I don't want us to go down this rabbit hole. I just want you to comment a little bit because it does seem a little odd that he's still not really there.
Okay, for me, the quick comment would be like, how injured is he and how much is he dealing with? Because in the minutes he's played, he hasn't looked good. Like, he hasn't looked, and I don't want to say he's been bad, but he just hasn't.
I
He's
forgot he was even out there in that last game against the Magic because they hyped him up at first, like he's finally healthy, and then like literally 2 minutes later, I was like, he's not in the game anymore. What just happened?
Well, that's the thing for me is I don't notice the big difference between him or a second year or sorry, a second round pick and a G League player who's made, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
there should be a huge drop off. I didn't notice it.
Yeah. We'll come back to Javante Green in 10 games because maybe he turns it around. Maybe the main thing for me is like if his true shooting percentage was above 55%, I would not really have that much of a deal. Even if it was above 50%, I'd be like, okay, he's made some things happen there. But 44.1%, like that's a guy you cannot leave out on the floor when you're really starved for 3-point shooting. And if your superstar is not on it that night, then you're just flailing. While the other guys you want to take the reins in the meantime, like a Sar or like a Ron, they need more floor space around them too. So yeah, I agree with you. It does seem like he's the coach's guy, but man, you know who I miss the more I watched Javante Green is like, where's the Rodney McGruder when you need him, right? Rodney just always seemed to get it on defense, playmaking, and he's the very rare like end of the bench guy that like when he comes in, you're like, why don't we play that guy more? So yeah, Javante Green. We'll come back and continue 10 games, but right now we just don't see it, man. Next point is Duran could help if given more drives. I originally wrote this after the Cleveland game, and then the Magic game happened, and I was like, I think I changed my mind on this, but because again, I always want to be objective and try and see it. And in that Cleveland game, I'm like, when they gave him the ball, and even in the half court, if they let him just create and drive, I'm like that creates pretty good mismatches. And we know he can pass. We've seen him do that before. So theoretically, like this should be another opportunity to open up easy catch and shoot looks for other guys. But my points with this is Duran could help if given more drives, but he's really inconsistent with that. I believe it was still in that Cavs game where he did a nice crossover. He shook Jared Allen, driving in the lane, dribbles it right off his foot and out of bounds. And then the next play, he'll make like a good running hook shot and stuff. And that's just what it happens. And really, after the Magic game, the things to me that was like, okay, this is deader than dead. Duran is second on this team with 15 turnovers. That's only 7 behind Cade. You know how many assists Duran has so far, too?
I'm gonna say 5 games. He probably has 10 assists.
6.
Ooh, that hurts.
Yeah, and again, we don't all rack this 5 games, but so far, like 1.2 assists, that's really weird for Duran because that was the thing that was blossoming. And what complicates this even more is Duran is technically second on this team in usage. Like if you track usage, Cade's 29.7%, and then Duran is right behind him at 24.7. It's not Ron, it's not a star, it's not Tobias. Tobias is only 17.9%, which I was very surprised by. But apparently, Dern is getting like way more usage than everybody not named Cade Cunningham. And again, rewatching the games, he is really hunting his own shot. He is not looking for other dudes. When he's driving in the lane, you can see Tobias open in the corner. You can see even like a Javante Green behind him open, Cade open for catch and shoot looks. And then that's going to be a big thing for me tracking this because again, objectively, I'm like, man, this could work because of how it seemed like Duran was doing things on the short roll. So you think that should translate? He spot up drives to the rim. They send a double team or even somebody there, and he's able to kick it out to shooters. But that's not happening. They're giving him more usage. His turnovers are sky high. His turnover percentage is 21.2%, and his assist percentage is a measly 8.4%, which I think is what it's right in line with Javante Green, 11th, 12th place on the team. So that is a bad combination of things where you give the guy the ball more, you create these offensive opportunities. His playmaking seems to be going away while his turnovers they were going up. It's a bad trend.
So I see a lot of, and this will sound stupid when I say it, but I see potential in Duran in terms of when he makes that quick, aggressive drive to the basket, he is faster than a ton of centers. So driving to the basket, I agree with you, is a good thing. I wouldn't even mind sometimes him taking like a mid-range jump shot when he's wide open. The problem I have is all the damn dribbling. Stop dribbling the damn ball. Pass it, drive, or shoot. Do not dribble the basketball. Every time I see him try to do a crossover through the legs, I'm like, what the hell are you doing, man? Like, you are not a guard. I know
Come
you
on,
want.
Mitchell Robinson did it in all those TikTok videos, Andy.
Oh man, those off-season videos. We'll never forget all those videos. But that's where I see the potential, and even the fact that we have not enough guys shooting the threes. Maybe that's why he's not passing it because it's like they're not going to shoot it, and like the offense isn't like moving. But that for me, the dribbling is the biggest problem, and especially when he tries to dribble it to bring it up the court. Because if I had the time, I would go back and look at how many of his turnovers come from him dribbling when he shouldn't be dribbling. And if you
A
eliminate
lot.
those, it'll look much better. His numbers would look much better.
Yeah, yeah, it's brutal. 6 assists to 15 turnovers. That cannot keep going. If in 10 games we still see the same track, like I might have to go on a little bit of a rant here. Because yeah, it's yeah, brutal is the only word that I can describe to it. I mean, he's got to dribble though if they're gonna do this, right?
I don't think he has to dribble a lot because he has passing skills if he would just get it and move it or get it and drive instead of trying. He's trying to create too much. Like, well, I don't want you to be a creator. Just be a facilitator and drive or shoot. That's all you have to do. Stop dribbling. You're too big for dribbling.
That point you made of like, oh, maybe it's because these guys don't want to take threes. He's not kicking out to them. Well, he's the only Piston that has that freaking idea in his head because everybody else is moving the ball. George Blaha and Special K, all they talk about is look at how well this team moves the ball. Again, if he's the cheese stands alone with him doing that, then that's one of the clear indications of like you got to get this guy out of here. If he's not buying into it like everybody else is, then like why keep him around?
And this is something that could become a problem. And it's the same thing for Ivy later, where it's like, how much is he looking for his numbers for his contract? Like, and unfortunately, that's just the reality. Like, the guy's playing for money. So that's where it's like, if I can average 20 and 10, how much do 20 and 10 guys get paid? Like, that's what I'm looking for.
Oh my gosh, if that's the case, like the coaching staff should be fired for malpractice for feeding into that, right? Like ridiculous. We do want to end this segment on the offense, giving some positives. I mean, we give us some positives here and there, like Ron shooting and stuff. Positives on offense, obviously Cade, right? Andy, talk about the positives of Cade on offense.
Well, he is our entire offense. I mean, when you look at the numbers, um, he just does everything that we need to do, like to score that many points and have that many assists. He's doing a good job. When you look at his surrounding cast in terms of offensively, like it's a lot of question marks that he has around him, and we're making this work as far as statistically the Pistons are a bad offense. I wouldn't expect this to change anytime soon. And because of that, teams are really giving him a lot of attention, as they should. That's what I would do. Um, I do think that he could be better in terms of figuring out when everyone is going to be double teaming him and triple teaming him. You'd think the whole team, JB, would have this coached by now that it's like, yeah, they're going to be, everyone is going to Cade. This is what we're going to be running to capitalize on it. But to be 3-2 with him shooting the 3-point percentage that he is and having the turnovers that he's had, and and some of his turnovers, in my opinion, have been puzzling in terms of, is he not paying attention? Is he exhausted? Like, is he bored? Like, I don't know. Some of the turnovers, I'm like, what just happened there? Um, but he still, like in the Orlando game, he showed you why people are like, he's in the MVP conversation if the Pistons can win games.
Yeah, he had like 30 points, 10 assists, 6 rebounds, 0 turnovers, which was the big thing in that game. Just if he shot the ball, I mean, it was a near perfect game. It's just three balls not going down. And really, for me, I think Cade has handled things well. He's given up, bringing up the ball a lot of times. I think I was listening to Zach Lowe, and they talked about one of the trends this year so far has been everybody imitating the Pacers like fake full court press kind of thing, where you send one guy to go pester the ball handler. You don't send like the whole team to full court press. And teams have been doing that to where now they have somebody else bring up the ball, and Cade's done that a little bit more. I do think it has helped out a lot. I don't know that they've unlocked like the creativity on how to really fully take advantage of that yet. Um, but he's been able to manage through that stuff. And yeah, the double team stuff, like it's hard to tell like who if that falls on really, if it's more him or more coaching staff. Probably 50-50 though, like both need to have some kind of blame there. But really it's come down to like, man, he shot terribly, but he's still been able to pull out a bunch of stuff here. 47.6% from two, and then 81.8% from free throw line. His free throw attempt rate right now is 34.4%. So hopefully it gets up a little more. Again, that was the one thing that you have were like, well, he doesn't have much control over that, but he's handled it very well. And even though the turnovers are, pretty high, I heard Zach Lowe talk about, he needs to cut down on the turnovers. 41 assists to 22 turnovers. The percentages on that are 37% assist percentage to 16.6% turnover rate. And if you're somebody out there that wants to complain about Cade Cunningham, remember Jalen Duren has a higher turnover rate than Cade Cunningham. So there you go. Do with that what you will. And I mean, you can't really complain with Cade either because it's like, okay, if he, what do we have without him, right? Nothing. Without him, this is like a 20-win team. No offense to the other guys. Just Cade's the engine that makes the offense run. Without the engine, the car is going nowhere, no matter how awesome the body and the steering and everything else are. And the other guys I want to give love to are Stu and Ron. Keep this team from being a 30-win team. I mean, you saw it in the first game immediately. They came in and I was going to talk about like the differential in the first quarter between everything else because every game they brought that up where the Pistons just suck in the first quarter in terms of scoring. But I don't think it's really a thing because that same starting lineup is in the third quarter, and that's when they like light it up. So it's like, whatever. It's not that the personnel is there; it's just they're slow starters. Whatever, not that big of a deal. But Ron and Stu are really keeping this team from being a 30-win team because if that was the case, where it's like, well, this isn't going every time they come in, boom, Stu hits a big three, boom, Ron hits a big three, or boom, Ron makes like 3 steals. He's leading the team, I believe, with 10 steals right now, if I remember that correctly. Where's Ron at? Yeah, Ron's got 10 steals, and of course, Stu is leading this team with 10 blocks. So they just make plays on both end, and they're both the guys that are buying into the we know what role we have to fill on offense now, which is floor spacer and being able to finish when Cade gives us the opportunity. And for Ron, it's more of I'm going to be the get and go guy. Every time in transition, they have clearly told him, you get the rebound, run and make something happen. And every time, like to me, every time he's done it, I'm like, that was the right thing to do. And with how slow the offense has been otherwise, that's something they need as another, feature to just get easy buckets.
It hasn't been for very many minutes, but what have you thought of Stu and Dern being on the court together?
It's not very many minutes. I don't like it. I don't think it's really done anything. They haven't really fully taken advantage of it in the Cleveland game in particular. I was like, this is a failure, and they were already kind of out of it anyway. But that's the game where you thought like, oh, this could work since Mobley and Allen, but it had the opposite effect. And in every other game, they haven't really committed to it. They're like, okay, it's the end of the first quarter. Let's put them together for 2 minutes and then never do it again. It's like, why?
Yeah. And so actually that's one of my questions is I I'm not sure if we actually see that in the second half or if it's only a 2 minute like first quarter thing that they do it because that was the other thing that I didn't understand about Javante Green, why they put him on power forwards when it's like and if they've had weird foul trouble issues, which we could talk like a whole show about the weird foul trouble issues, but Stu needs more minutes, yet we're playing Javante Green more at the four. I don't get it.
Your reaction on Stu and Duran, my assumption that they would, if without them, this team would be like 30-win pace.
Um, Stu has been really good, which I'm wondering why we don't get more Stu minutes. Ron Holland is like just a chaos machine, and sometimes it's really good, and sometimes you see like youthful mistakes, but he does bring the energy when this team seems like it needs some energy. It just needs some, and both of them do that. Um, they have been they have been big for this team, so I agree with what you're saying.
There's also only 3 Pistons who've played over 100 minutes who have above 54.2% true shooting. Who are they? I
Oh,
mean,
did
obviously the first one's easy, right?
yeah. So I would say Stu and Ron.
Who's the third one?
Is Cade below 54%?
Yeah, you know he is. Come on now.
The third one, Duncan Robinson.
No, come on. You know it's Jalen Duren. Jalen Duren always leads the team in true
Oh,
shooting
his
percentage.
because he only dunks the ball.
Exactly. So Jalen Duren, 66.5% true shooting. Ron Holland is behind him at 59.5% true shooting, scorching hot. And then Duncan Robinson is 59%. Stu on offense, the criticism is he just has to get better at finishing from 2 point range. Because right now, Stu's true shooting percentage is 54.2%. And it's really hurt by his 2 point percentage, which is only 38.5%. But it's really in the one game where he went 0 for 5. I forget which game that was. It was maybe like the Cleveland game. But if you look at the game logs, like all the other ones were there, and especially in that Magic game, you saw him finish and pick and roll with Cade a little bit better. So it's like, yeah, you can see this stuff kind of rounding out. So yeah, that's Stu will get there as long as he's finishing better from two.
Do they count some of his offensive rebound taps as missed shots?
I think so. They must because 38.5% is pretty low. And again, watching all but the Bulls game again, there were a lot of taps from Stu that didn't go in. Yeah, but again, the energy they bring both on offense, defense, and the fact that they're buying into the role of floor spacer and with Stu like the pick and roll guy and Ron being the get and go guy in transition, fantastic stuff. A star with the exclamation point. Positives on seeing a star on offense. So I know we want him to shoot more threes, but he has taken more than I thought he would. He's taken 1.8 per game, which to me, I'm like, if he's taking 2 per game, and his shot, while I'm still very skeptical of it, it looks a lot better than it did 2 years ago. I will tell you that. Again, he's another one that isn't really missing left and right. He hasn't airballed one yet. It does seem like that's good. And he is like the Ben Wallace, baffling, beautiful jump shot that shouldn't work or doesn't work, and he doesn't want to take it because Gasar's mid range looks really good every time. He even did a pull up. He's done a couple pull ups in the mid range, and then that turnaround we've always remarked. And I'm like, just do that from three, man. But yeah, he's done a really good job. He's done a really good job being a playmaker, being a slasher, also being a secondary and tertiary ball handler. I mean, just you definitely see why people like Zach Lowe and us obviously are like, yeah, most improved player, 13.8 points per game, 7.4 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, zero point 0.6 blocks, and then 51% from two, 22% from three, and then 61.1% from the free throw line. All of that translates to a 50.8% true shooting, which obviously is not good, but he's just an all around skill guy. And another reason why they need another shooter, because if they have another shooter to pull off of Asar, then it just helps him out even more.
So, a question for you and I agree with everything you brought up for Asar. Why do I feel like he has more turnovers than he does? Because he doesn't have a high number of turnovers at all. But I feel when I'm watching, does he pass the ball to a player and then the next player makes the turnover because something is slightly off when they're getting it? I just feel like there's times when I see way more turnovers. When I look at his numbers, it's like they don't credit him with many turnovers.
No, because again, I mean, to talk about watching the games twice now. I can only remember a very few that like ended up badly. The ones that I remember that you're thinking about, like he got it to them, and then like Karras would try and move, or they make another basketball move and then lose it. So maybe it's more like your brain saying, "Don't pass it to that guy. That guy's just gonna turn it over. What are you doing?" So it makes the connection of like crediting it to a star, which yeah, they shouldn't credit to a star. And a star has a like ridiculously low turnover rate right now of 6.9%, 22.5% assist percentage to 6.9 turnover rate. Please, dear God, let that continue the entire season because that kind of assist to turnover rate is what makes your lack of 3-point shooting like not even a thing anymore.
And for me, the thing is, and this is where the season gets really interesting. Like at the 20 game mark, when Jaden Ivey is hopefully healthy and ready to return, like what how has Asar been playing in that role? Does Jaden Ivey just end up being more off ball the entire time that he's playing? Like off ball with Cade and off ball with Asar? I mean, and I know this is thinking ahead, but Asar has looked really good. And because he struggles shooting, having him with the ball in the hands alleviates a lot of that when he's, off the ball. So this has been very, very intriguing and I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, keep giving a star the ball. Good things happen. And then Tobias, I am sorry, Tobias. I don't think we ever gave you the formal "we're sorry, Tobias" apology episode. Which, if anybody is talking trash about Tobias anymore, we'll be the first to show up and like punch you in the face and tell you to shut up. I put Tobias trying, like he's doing everything he needs to do, from spacing the floor to driving to carrying the second unit at times to making sure he's making the extra pass. Like he's perfect from the free throw line right now. He hasn't missed a free throw either, but still getting there on the glass. Again, 3.2 assists, which is higher than a lot of times that he's done it. Like you just cannot criticize him, and him defending Paulo, him defending I forget who was the other major power forward the face that he defended. He's taken on the toughest. Oh, Mobley. He took on Mobley. It's just like if you're going to criticize him, like I don't know why you root for this team anymore. He is consummate professional, absolute veteran. Again, the whole back and forth with him and Paulo. Talk about like a 34, 33-year-old man getting in the head of a guy who's supposed to be an offensive superstar and him bricking those two free throws. Again, if you don't like that for your Detroit basketball team, go to Chicago or something, man.
Tobias, I agree. Like we were unsure on his fit, and last season he filled in a role. He's doing the same thing this season. There's been a couple of times when he's put up a catch and shoot three that I cringed a little because of how quickly he shot it, but then I was like, "That's what we want you to do, man. We want you to put up more threes." So I'm not mad at it. I'm not upset. And yes, and I do hope that he ends up being back here again next year in a reduced role. I
Same.
just think he's good for the team.
Yeah, I do think he can be the one that's replaced in the starting lineup, unfortunately, just because if they did get like a volume 3-point shooter, like the Cam Thomas is really the guy they're missing on offense, right? If they did get a Cam Thomas type guy, then obviously Tobias can go. And the only reason I say that too is he's a consummate professional. We've seen how well he can run the second unit and get things going there too as well and keep that scoring going. So yeah, Tobias just fantastic. Again, the percentages in three aren't that great right now, but when you watch the games, you're like he's making the right calls and he's trying to be a floor spacer, even though that's not necessarily his game. And then obviously Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson is doing so much work as a 3-point shooter. 6.2 threes per game, 38.7%, even sinking it from two, not that often, but 42.9. 10 points, 2.4 rebounds, 1.2 assists. I feel like he should have gotten more assists too. He's a really good passer. In that Magic game, he had a really good outlet pass down to, I think it was Ron, uh, kind of in the third quarter there. And again, he's one of the few guys on this team that has good true shooting percentage at 59%. Please, dear God, keep Duncan Robinson healthy because your guess of like 27th in terms of 3-point attempts, like that's going to be the reality if Duncan Robinson gets hurt. And I can't believe after like two games, we were like, oh, he's a bust. He can't get any, knock down any threes. And it's just like, do people not know how 3-point shooters work? Come on now. And again, he's getting the toughest looks because everybody's keying on, if they're not keying on Cade, then they're keying on Duncan to try and not let him shoot any threes.
I'll have to find the tweet, but there was a tweet that talked about like the players with the the largest swing of like scoring three more than their average or three less than their average or something. And Duncan's name was on that list. And I don't think it's because he's an inconsistent player. I just think it's the nature of the 3 point shot that if you have a game where you miss a bunch of your 3 point shots, you don't score much that game. And the next game you make a bunch, you score a lot more. I think he's going to look better over time with the team because they're they're used to like he's not going to shoot the same way Malik did as far as how he comes off screens and how he does things. And I think once they get him more comfortable with his shots and people learn how to play off of him, I think you'll see the turnovers come down a little bit, the assists come up, and I think you'll see his 3 point shooting percentage get a little bit better once they figure out how he works, if that makes sense.
No, that absolutely does make sense. And if guys like Ron and Stu, and maybe when Ivy comes back, we know how much Ivy's affected Cade's 3 point shooting. So who's not to say he's going to do it for Duncan as well? That opens up another one and it makes it easier. And yeah, it's like, who's the second best 3 point shooter on the Heat the whole time he was there, Andy?
The second best 3 point shooter on the Heat was it Tyler Hero?
Who knows? That's my point, right? You really have to think about it. I mean, it's obviously Tyler Hero, but it wasn't until what 2 seasons ago where Hero like became this monster volume 3 point shooter. So Duncan has had to really be like a one man spacing unit at times. So yeah, Duncan amazing. And then the last point on offense, Dennis and Chaz in their flashes. Like, please just play the more JB. That's all I will say for the offense. Anything else for
So
the offense for you?
so just to build off this Chaz point, like one, I think he needs more playing time because he can shoot the ball. But the one thing you brought up right now about what happens if Duncan Robinson got injured, like there is no player on the team that can run around and shoot threes like Duncan other than Chaz. So what offensive sets are you going to like you're going to have to change like a lot of your offense cuz you don't have anyone who can even do it at a decent percentage. Like he should be getting reps in that role just in case, just for like insurance that we have another guy who can fill that role because there is no one else besides Duncan Robinson.
Yeah, and even though Dennis isn't the 3 point volume shooter, like he takes those deep ones that are like a foot or two behind the line, which shows he has a good 3 point shot. You can never have too many good 3 point shooters. And Dennis is really good as defensive playmaker and playmaker in general. The defense, though, the little emoji I use for this is obviously the sunglasses guy looking all cool with his smiley face. I mean, the team has really choked out teams on defense for certain. If you look at defensive rating for the NBA, the Pistons ranked 11th. But if you go to basketball reference and look at their adjusted defensive rating, it's an estimate of points allowed per 100 possession, and it's adjusted for the strength of the opponents, how good they are. You know where the Pistons rank for defensive rating, adjusted defensive rating, Andy?
Let's go 8th.
10th. So pretty close. They're top 10 in adjusted defensive rating and 12th in terms of net rating adjusted. So it really, for as bad as the offense is, again, that shows you the defense is really carrying a lot. And that should be the identity of this team because of who they have. Everybody's committed to defense. Let me see. Yeah, everybody, which I'll get into specifics here, but the Pistons rank number one in a defensive statistic, Andy. What category in defense do the Pistons rank number one?
I think I heard this during the Orlando game and it was blocks.
Correct. They have 38 blocks. If we want to give this team a name, a nickname, everybody, it's the Detroit Block Party because Stu's got 10 blocks, Dern's got 8 blocks, Kate Cunningham has 6 blocks. Guess who is in fourth place with 4 blocks, Andy?
Asar?
Duncan Robinson is in fourth place with 4 blocks. And I put everyone's effort on D is fantastic and then Duncan in particular. I know people keep saying he's getting picked on and whatever, but the 4 blocks, number one, shows you and notice the patterns. Early in the games, yes, they will attack him. But like late in the game in Orlando, all of a sudden Franz couldn't score on him. All of a sudden, Paulo's like, I don't know what to do. All of a sudden, Desmond Bain couldn't score on him. And a lot of the fouls and stuff that Duncan is getting himself into, is because he's the only guy getting back on defense consistently. Notice in the fast break when the Pistons have to defend the fast break, it's Duncan. Duncan is normally there at the end trying to cut guys off. So yeah, Duncan Robinson fourth on this team with 4 blocks so far. Asar third or fifth with 3 blocks. Paul Reed sixth with 3 blocks, which is amazing because he's only played 34 minutes. And then Ron has 2 blocks, Tobias has one, and Javante Green also has a block. So this is the Detroit block party, people. Number one in blocks. Easy to see that this is going to continue, not just because Stu is a monster on the glass, not just because Dern is taking a step forward there as well, which we want to give him some flowers and some love for. But Cade is really good at blocking, and you see him committing more to defense. Obviously, we know Asar is going to keep getting blocks. Ron, as he becomes better at like weak side shot blocking and stuff. Paul Reed, I just said he's barely played any time and he has 3 blocks. And then if Duncan's averaging blocks like this, Duncan, I think is averaging over a block per game right now. Again, we don't want to overreact because it's only 5 games, but I don't think we ever would have thought it was 0.8 blocks per game. So it's close, but I don't think we ever would have thought they would even have 1 block by this point. Like everyone's effort on D is fantastic. Again, Duncan in particular, really not getting taken advantage of, even though teams are trying. And again, they are trying to hunt him in that starting lineup, and yet this team is top 10 in defensive rating because Duncan, if that's getting taken advantage of, then please keep taking advantage of us all season, right? What do you think about everybody's effort on D?
The defense has looked good, and with the way the offense struggles at times, I think it's good that it has kind of forced them that they have to rely on their defense. Because when their defense has been not a focus, that's when they get behind big in games. And yeah, shots start going down, but usually it's because their defense picks up. They create more turnovers. They get into transition. They get some easy buckets. Like the defensive identity of this team is really important. Yes, Duncan can get picked on, but the biggest thing we see from him is he's always making the effort. He's always making the effort. He's trying to be in the right positions. He's doing the best that he can. So I have, no problems with that. A question I do have is, do you feel like Asar's defense has gone down with his bigger focus on offense?
No, because I pulled the defensive field goal percentages, which I'm not going to get into now because I feel like 10 games is the minimum where you should look at on off ratings and percentages because then it's like, okay, this is enough of a sample size. You probably faced a really good team in Cleveland and you've probably faced like the bottom of the barrel, which I haven't looked at the schedule ahead, but I'm sure they're going to face the bottom of the barrel team here if they haven't already. And that team just hasn't really shown its true colors yet. So after 10 games, we'll get into that. But there's only one guy who is defending the 3-point shot well, and that is Asar Thompson. Asar's defensive field goal percentage numbers are really the only one that at every level stand out still. It's like, yeah, he's the man.
All right. We'll look at that in 10 games.
Yeah, and through 5 games, I haven't looked at Asar's defensive rating, but it's 111, which is good because average offense last year was 104. So that's been my barometer. Is like last year, average scoring was 114. If you can keep it under 114, then you're a good, probably a good defender. If all the other things like defensive field goal percentage and stuff check out. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Duncan's effort, especially on his closeouts. Like he is really closed out hard on everything, except for one. There was a funny one in the Orlando game where he was doing his usual closeout super hard. He looked up and he saw it was Anthony Black, and then he didn't even raise his hand, just like kind of ran off. And then Anthony Black bricked that three. So it's like, okay, you've clearly done your film study on that one. There is one person though I will say whose closeouts still are terrible. By and large, like Ron, fantastic closeouts, do really good closeouts. Dennis, even Javante Green, all the way down the line, fantastic in trying to get there and defend the three or the jump shot wherever it is. There's only one guy whose closeouts still don't look like everybody else. I bet you know who it is.
Um, was that the guy? Didn't he get a technical foul for his closeout on a 3-point shooter? And then later, when he pushed the guy and got a second technical, he got ejected because of it? That guy?
Yeah, yeah. You want to get it in the negatives then, because that was the first one that I brought up for the negatives on defense.
Go ahead.
I mean, this team does have foul issues, which we'll talk about here more in broader scope, but Duran's fouls still stand out as like, what's going on, man? Like that closeout. What game was that where he got ejected? Was it Houston?
I think it was Houston.
So yeah, the first one where he closed out and he did the Jalen Rose, as it's now known, right, where he stood under the shooter and he rolled his ankle. When's the last time you saw anybody do that?
It still I can't recall it. I know it still happens, but I can't recall.
It doesn't happen very often, though, right?
Much less often.
Yeah, and that was the real big worry one for me. I'm like, how often is that stress today from the minute you pick up a basketball and get in a youth league to the NBA where like, don't do this. So for him to just stand there and let it happen, it's like, I man, that's a really bad basketball IQ play. But then what happened maybe like 5 minutes later is he elbows Amen in the face, which I don't think was intentional. I do think it's just him being too hulked up and swole, but it's just like this is what we still harp on with Duran is like, man, your fouls stand out really bad from everybody else's. And even in the Magic game, like there was a moving screen that like killed momentum. Sometimes he touched guys under the rim that he shouldn't have, and it's just like, all right, bro, like what's going on? It's still basketball IQ fouls with Duran that are really bad. I don't get it.
Do so in general, I agree with you on like defensively, especially he makes some dumb fouls. But do you feel like he gets a bad call on some of his screens where guys just bounce off of him and they're like, "Oh, that's an offensive foul." Where he there's times when he does move, but there's times he doesn't move much, and guys just know if they run and move their head enough, a lot of times they'll get a whistle on them.
Yeah, I have to go back and look at them in detail to be perfectly honest. But my gut would be, yeah, I would agree with you because that happens a lot with Stu, and it's going to go into the ref ball complaints that I'm going to have about this team. So yeah, I would by and large say yes because the only one moving screen I can recall right now off the top of my head is just the last one I saw in Orlando, which it was like, yeah, dude, like I can see your foot not touching the ground. Come on. Any other thoughts on Duran's like fouls and just no basketball IQ stuff?
Um, so for me, that's when you want the money that he wants, you can't be that inconsistent. Like I can't afford to pay a guy when, like we say, the best ability is availability. Like he's got to be on the court, and if we don't know how long you're going to be on the court because of foul trouble any given night, it you just can't get that kind of money. It's just too unpredictable. And these are things that I feel like, come on, man. We have to be improving on this.
What do you mean 5 years in? He's still filling up the stat sheet, Andy. He's already got a flagrant one and a flagrant two. Who else in the NBA is filling up that stat sheet like
I man, but yeah, he gets too many fouls.
yeah. And to be clear, we understand Ron and Asar both, or Ron and Asar, Ron and Isaiah Stewart both average over 4 fouls per game right now, but they still don't stand out like this. And it's still more in line with the ref ball. And any Piston fan will agree with us who's watched these games, right? Like half the calls on Ron and Stu, you're like, come on, man, that was just good defense.
Yeah, they get, but so I would say
You want
not
to
as
do the ref
much.
ball stuff now? Because I was going to go over the like aggression and overhelping, but maybe we should just do the ref stuff
Yeah,
now since we're kind of
we can
into
do
it.
the ref ball stuff now because it's crazy. But I will say, if I try to be unbiased, I would say the Pistons do make some stupid fouls that I'm like, come on, man, like what are you doing?
Do you think they make enough stupid fouls that they should be second to last in the NBA in personal fouls, 29th?
No.
I agree. Remember how I mentioned I was worried Ron was or Asar was going to get Raja Belled? If you don't remember me saying this, anybody out there that listened, go listen to Bonzi Wells and Rasheed Wallace's podcast, basically about the whistleblower and talking about guys all of a sudden getting random fouls. And they talk about Raja Bell, where Rasheed was like, man, Raja Bell was locking dudes down. He locked down Kobe. And then the very next year, he's like, you just watch. And he's talking to Bonzi. Now, within 5 minutes, Raja is going to get 2 fouls every time because they don't want him to be doing that. And he's hurting their star, and he's not a superstar himself. And Bonzi was like, yeah, no doubt. Every time, 5 minutes, 2 fouls, 5 minutes, 2 fouls. That's happening with Isaiah Stewart and Ron Holland for I think the exact same reason. Stu is not a sexy player. We obviously see how much he gets into people's heads between Milwaukee and Indiana. I mean, that's probably like half the complaints to the league. And they say, oh, he's a dirty player and whatever, which we obviously know he's not. It's just he's not a sexy player. And he gets in there and he eliminates the rim. Like he's only behind Wembanyama really in terms of being that kind of a rim protector. And we still see it within 5 games of how the teams attack the rim when he's in the game versus when he's not in the game. And in that Magic game, he had some pretty like good just stuffing Bronze and Paulo to where they're like, all right, I guess I got to shoot some jumpers or I'm going to go try pick on Duncan, something like that. And then Ron Holland too, where Ron's still the young guy, getting energized, getting in people's faces and stuff. And again, I'm sure people are complaining and be like, you can't be doing this stuff. And they're the two in particular so far that are getting Raja Bell because it's easy to pick on the guys that are aggressive, that are not star players, and whose main things are to snuff out the superstars on the other end. So it is what it is. I think Stu's handled it very well. I could see in the Magic game. There was a moment when he got the tee for or not the tee, the final foul and got kicked out where JB was talking to him and I was like, oh, looks like Stu's about to hulk up. But then JB was like, get out of here and he got out. Um and I do think it just kind of coincides with the ref ball in general being terrible. Watching the Magic game again, I'm like, how did? Because when I watched it live too, I'm like, really? Wendell got 6 fouls? He got kicked out too? And then when I watched it again, it was even more mystified. I'm like, what did he do? Like, there's no reason he should have fouled that. I don't think he did anything wrong in any of those 6 fouls. Maybe one of them, but it was just like, what are we doing here?
So I have not watched many NBA games this year besides the Piston games, but the all the fouling it's been confusing because it has been way too much. Like it hasn't it's made some of the games just difficult to watch because all we're doing is watching fouls getting called all the time. And then for me, the most frustrating thing is like we're gonna do this, and then when we get to the playoffs, we're gonna turn it into like a bloodbath of very few fouls being called, unless you're a specific player who always gets a whistle for no contact.
Yep.
So it's like we've got like three different games going on here throughout the season, and it's like, okay, this is very difficult and confusing. But for teams who want to have a defensive identity, you're really making it hard for them to to play their game
Yeah.
when it's going to be like no contact basketball.
Everybody's in foul trouble every game, apparently. You know how many Pistons average 3 fouls or more right now, Andy?
Oh, I'd probably say we probably got 6 guys.
6 guys. And Duncan barely missed it. If they called him for another foul in any game, he would be right there on that list too. Which, if you're calling Duncan Robinson for that many fouls, you're doing a terrible job. It's just like, really, you think that guy like has a lot of contact? It's just like, come on, man. And then Cade, I'll go on the Cade rant too. He's gotten the black eye in 2 games now from guys elbowing him and punching him in the eyeball, and yet we're the ones getting called for all the fouls. I really hope JB and the staff, which I do think they're doing, are just like, forget it, play like this. We don't care because once we get into the playoffs, probably a third of these fouls aren't even going to get called anyway.
The and again, this would just come across as like being biased for your guy, but I am so confused. Like when you watch Paulo get the whistle for all these calls and you see Cade getting hit constantly and there's not a foul, it's just, I'm just like, what is going, because he gets hit so many times and
Yeah.
there's no whistle. And
Yeah, and
it's
that
like,
Suggs one we
what?
understand was incidental of him getting punched in the face, but Durns was incidental too, and he got kicked out of the game.
Yeah, that the fouling, it's been rough.
Yeah, and Cade got a tech in the Magic game for complaining to the refs too, which that ref crew in particular really bothered me because it seemed like for both sides, and this is the point I want to end on is for me, it isn't just about Detroit, which obviously we do think there's a bias, and I'm arguing for Stu and Ron in particular. They're getting the Raja Bell thing. But man, there's certain crews that it's just like you clearly have a power trip, like the whole thing with Wendell Carter kicking him out last night, and both sides just really being like, "What is going on with these calls?" It's really weird. And then that Rockets game was terrible. absolutely the worst. I'm glad they won it too, because the foul disparity in that game in particular, just really, really bad. I can look it up here in a minute while you talk, Andy, if you want to.
Yeah, the foul trouble with and I used to think it was like Pistons fans made a bigger deal of it than it is, but now it's like it just happens so often where he's getting hit and he's getting technicals now because he's just getting upset and getting frustrated by it. But I don't know what he's supposed to do when the supposed star he's battling with on the other team is getting all these whistles, especially sometimes when it's against him, when
Yeah.
he's defending and they'll throw like a pump fake and he'll jump straight up and they'll jump into him and it's a whistle. And on the other end, there's more contact and he doesn't get a whistle. It's very confusing.
Yeah, the Rockets game 31 fouls on the Pistons and then 24 on the Rockets. Like, all right, man. And five of them were on Şengün, four were on Jabari, five were on Amen. So it's like on really on three guys. Yeah, the ref ball. We'll continue to say that. It's just it makes it not fun. NBA, if you ever hear this, you want to know the reason why a lot of people don't want to watch. It's because of this, right?
Yes, absolutely. What was you? I know you had a note on the aggression of the Pistons and their overhelping.
So while I do like the aggression and it is the thing of their team, it made them lose the first game. Do you remember like who got so many open threes in that first game, Andy?
Against the
The
Bulls.
Bulls, yeah.
Um. Was that Vucevic?
I'm pretty sure every three he shot was wide open, which in the first game I was like, all right, whatever, you know. But every game since then, the Pistons, one of their defining features is they will help on the ball handler or they'll blitz the ball handler and leave somebody from three wide open. I'm not going to criticize Duran for this anymore because everybody's doing it. Stu did it to Vucevic in that game. Stu's done it every time. Paul Reed's done it every time. So it's clearly it's a coaching thing, and it is a feature of the defense where they're like blitz the ball handler or help on the ball handler and just ditch your guy. Where it's like game one had me very worried from that because I'm like, you know how good of a 3-point shooter Vucevic is now, Andy.
What's he shooting?
There's only because when I looked up, we should really get a stretch five. There were only five really legitimate stretch five guys, and then everybody after that was like the bonus, where it's like, sure they shoot threes, but they don't really take that many. It was Cat, it was Nas Reed, it was Miles Turner. I forget who the fourth one is, but the fifth guy was Vucevic. So that's why in the first game I was really worried because I'm like, this should be an easy defensive scout that says don't leave that guy open. But they still did, and they've continued to do that. Obviously, we just gave all the defensive numbers. So while I am still criticizing it, it's obviously not hurting them that much right now. I like the aggression, and I'm not even going to say stop doing it because obviously it's working and it's helped out a lot and it plays into their strengths of who they have on this team and their identity. But they're leaving legit shooters open every game in favor of pressuring the ball handler. And they are really lucky Boston sucks this year because Boston's the team in particular that I'm like, that should be the team that makes them pay for doing that kind of a strategy. But I mean, you're playing freaking Nemus Keita and Luca Garza. No offense to those guys, but they're like competing to be the third big on a lot of teams. They shouldn't be starting or the backup guys. Yeah, the aggression it has me worried. I it's weird because I like it, but I can also see how this is the hill they die on. It's the sword you stab with, but it also stabs you back.
Yeah, and I'm glad you noticed like for the Bulls game with Vucevic that it's like same thing with Stu. It was like why are we leaving this shooter like this? I don't I don't like
I
this.
wonder if it's kind of like playing into Duran. Not to say Stu can't do it, but Stu's a little better at switching, and Reed has been better at shooting. But I wonder if they kind of looked in the off season where they're like, let's kind of stop doing this, and instead of playing drop coverage, let's just be hyper aggressive instead, so that way Duran and everybody else can stay back. And even for Stu, I guess you could say like it plays more into his strengths since he's really good at protecting the rim. So let's have a defense where we don't pull him away from the rim too often. And in their favor, as I'm talking, I'm like, I just named five guys at the center position who will make you pay. There's 30 teams. So yeah, this JB, I see you.
Yeah, and it's funny because every time I see Duran get isolated away from the basket, I'm like, they're either gonna knock down a three in front of him or he's gonna get a foul. Like either way, like it is gonna be bad.
Yeah, KD did it and Paulo did it where they got Duran in isolation and they immediately told everybody, get out of the way. And Duran obviously, I mean, Durant obviously made him pay, but Paulo stupidly was like, I'm going to shoot a step back three. And it's like, yeah, hey, thanks a lot, man. That's exactly what we want to see. But yeah, the defense has been great. We see it only getting better. I mean, it would take a massive injury, fingers crossed, prayers said, knock on wood, or whatever you believe. It would take like three or four guys getting hurt for that really to change because it's everybody. Even when Duncan Robinson is playing that well and getting all those blocks, your defensive coaching staff is top.
So outside of an injury happening, which we don't want any injuries happening, outside of that, do you think the Pistons can play much, not to jinx them, but much worse than they've played in these first 5 games?
I mean, yeah, Cade's 3-point shot could just like never really materialize, right?
Well, that's what I mean. Like he's only shooting like what 27% or something, right?
24.2%.
Yeah, like do you think he's gonna shoot like worse than this? Or is
Yeah, I
this like
guess like realistically, yeah, your law of averages, right?
yeah, like so I guess what I'm saying, like looking at it, like I don't yes, they will have horrible games. That just happens in an 82 game schedule. But realistically, I don't see this team getting much worse than what we've seen in terms of like there's only going to be improvements. Things will get better. And then when you have Ivy hopefully returning healthy to the lineup, he should be better than some of the players we have. So in theory, it's like I I think this team could get pretty good.
Well, to be the counterpoint here, the thing I mentioned about the overaggression, there are 29 other really good NBA coaches out there, and a lot of them could figure out a way to make that, you know, a feature that you don't want to have anymore. And then the coaching staff for Detroit would have to come up with a counterpunch. So that's something there. The whole like feeding Duran, and if he continues to be the second guy they give the ball to, I don't. I, sorry to break everybody's heart who likes Durden, but I don't think that's a good idea. Like, how is that making the offense better when we can't, shoot threes and stuff like that? And I, unfortunately, again, like you said, we don't want to see anybody get hurt, but we've said it over and over since he was signed. One Duncan Robinson injury makes this offense look really bad.
Yep, that's why I did mention no injuries. Like we still have just this
But you just
crew.
mentioned his variance too, right? When he's in
Yes.
one of those real bad slumps, the offense is also going to look really bad.
Well, I mean, it was the season opener when he went 0 for 5, and everybody was like, Duncan Robinson is the worst signing in Pistons history. Why did we
Meanwhile,
get this guy?
which is funny because it's like, meanwhile, Karras hasn't played like it all right. So yeah, leave Duncan alone.
Do you think that there's any chance the Pistons sign Malik Beasley this season?
No, I haven't wanted to bring that up just because remember, so stupid Shams Charania. I'm sorry, Shams, you're great and everything, but he kept reporting on Terry Rozier like, he's been cleared of all charges. And then what was it like a week later? The feds were like, dude, like that's not true. Just because we don't want to put this out there, like don't say that. We're still, actively investigating all this. And it was the same with Malik Beasley, right? So yeah, I do think that's gonna take a while. The Rozier stuff came out 9 months ago, something like that, right? And now it's finally coming to a head with everything. So I think 9 months is still there. And I don't know how much I want to say, just some things that Beasley has put out make me think time to move on.
So, and I think I've seen some of the things you're talking about, but for me, um, with the additional stuff that has come out this season for other NBA players and Chauncey and stuff like that, I just think there is no way any NBA team will sign Malik Beasley and invite that into their organization. Like everyone wants to stay as far away as possible with this additional stuff.
Yep.
And just looking at some of the comments that Trajan made, just in terms of like character and like the type of environment he wants to have. And I'm not, speaking against him in any way. I'm just thinking from an organizational standpoint, you're like, nope, we're not gonna go there. And if Ivy got hurt to start the season, that would have been like the lowest point where if they were going to like take the gamble of doing it, I think they would have done it. And
Yeah.
if they didn't do it then, I don't see any other point this year where they're going to be like, we have to do this, unless maybe there was, an unfortunate thing with Duncan Robinson. But even then, it's highly unlike. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, the Chauncey part throws a whole monkey wrench in it because that's not even a betting on games. It's a whole nother gambling ring, which is like, uh-oh, that just means there's other things out there. So maybe Malik's not exactly being investigated for the same thing Rozier is. Maybe it's something else entirely. And with how those two investigations came and played out so far, yeah, like you said, every NBA team has to be like, no, until we have like 25 signed letters from judges and federal agents and stuff. They like, he did nothing wrong. No, no, thank you. We don't want to have to deal with that. Unless they're the Clippers. The Clippers don't mind that stuff, okay, apparently, right?
You are a Clipper.
So the last thing we do want to end with, unless you have any other things to say about the defense, Andy.
I'm good.
So I just put this as when Ivy returns, dot, 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 question mark. So Andy, you fill in the blank when Ivy returns.
When Ivy returns, this team is going to get a lot better um, offensively. And what I mean by that is when I look at the minutes rotation right now, like we got Javante Green in the rotation. And again, no knock to him. We've got Karis LeVert, who hasn't really played that much. But my confusion when we originally signed him was where are all these guys going to get their minutes? And Ivy being out has, allowed these other guys to get minutes and stuff, but a healthy Ivy returning, I think he's just so much better offensively, even if he's primarily just the secondary ball handler and we continue with Asar being the primary with the second unit, which I think we should. I just think it gives this team and Ivy doesn't even have to be great. It's just with what we're working with now, I think that's a big boost. And I think it makes things really interesting for the team. However, I could also see his return making things obvious in terms of he's not quite the right fit or necessary for this team, which then makes the trade deadline and the offseason very interesting.
Yeah, so if you're not watching this on YouTube, I pulled up the basketball reference page that shows the rotation now, where really ninth man is where you want to cut it off with Javante Green, 16.2 minutes. Basically eliminate those minutes. And then where does Ivy like cut into minutes also?
So that's where I say like Karis LeVert's minutes. It's like that he would be the next guy to go. And I know some people talked before when I was doing like my minutes rotation to start the season. They were like, "Oh, Duncan Robinson doesn't need to play that many minutes. He's our only shooter. He needs to be on the court as much as freaking possible." And in just these 5 games, you can see it's like, no, he's going to be on the court a ton. So it's like, yeah, I mean, Karis LeVert is the next guy to have minutes cut and maybe they start with restricted minutes for Ivy and they work him back up. But once he's back up to full game minutes, unless they want to go with a 10-man rotation and shorten things for people, it's like those are the guys who are going to be losing minutes.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. The 16.2 for Javante go completely away. I think Karras goes down to like 10 minutes per game at that point, something like that. And then that creates what, like 24 minutes for Ivy, which sounds about right for a guy working back in. You know who I think gets the minutes cut after that?
Who would the next one be?
Tobias. He's the only one that makes sense. You don't want to stop playing Ron. You don't want to stop playing Duran. He's only playing 22.6 minutes per game anyway. And the Duran and Stu rotation, like it's perfect. Don't mess with it, right? And who else is down there? Yeah, Cade obviously no. Duncan obviously you just said no. The stars absolutely not. What are you out of your mind? Duran no. Holland no. Stu no. Tobias is the only one. He's older. It would help to get him through the whole season. Not that he necessarily needs it, but like just like 5 minute reduction, and then him and Ivy kind of trade off too with who's running the second unit. And if you can work it to where one of them plays 30 minutes one night and the other plays 25, great. And then towards the end of the year, you switch it to where Ivy is more the 30-minute guy and Tobias is more the 25-minute. Which again, looking at this lineup, the order goes Cade, Tobias, Duncan, Asar, Duran, Holland, Stu. Throw Ivy in there as like the third guy, and then it would be like, or probably the second guy really. It would be like Cade, Ivy, Duncan, Asar, and then Tobias. That makes sense.
So even without Ivy returning, I would hope gradually Tobias's minutes slowly get reduced and Ron's minutes slowly get increased. And depending on how the team is playing, and I know it probably sounds crazy, but I wouldn't even mind seeing Ron in the starting lineup and Tobias moved to the bench. And
I agree.
because I think the Pistons need to know for Tobias's next contract and next role, like more minutes with Ron and Asar together and see like how do things work. And if let's say 20 games into the season, Ron and Tobias are shooting a similar 3-point percentage. I know Tobias does way more than just shoot threes, but if he can match the outside shooting, then it's like I think you have to try it. I think we have to see what happens.
Yeah, my answer for when Ivy returns, I think we're going to see inconsistency. Number one, it's going to take a while for Ivy to get his lungs back and get his legs back. So that's going to be a little bit. There is the possibility that in that time he's just like, okay, I'm just going to launch away threes and it goes pretty well. There also is the possibility that he could be like, okay, my legs aren't back. I'm going to launch away threes and it goes bad. It's probably somewhere in the middle where Ivy's trying to be his usual spark plug self, but it's not quite there yet. Some nights it is, and it takes a while for him to round himself back into form. So I do think that is going to be a little bit of a rough time whenever he comes back. Not that it's necessarily a bad time, because I mean, like you said, they can't really be much worse on offense at times. And Ivy is a threat that every team does have to respect at that point when he does come back in for speed and everything. But I do think it's going to take a while for them to figure out, like, okay, what is Ivy? How does he fit in with already what we got going? Because Ivy's coming back in December, maybe late November, right?
Yeah, it was he was supposed well, that's the thing. They say he's evaluated in 4 weeks, and that was basically to start the season. So
I mean,
who
he's
knows?
coming back in 20 and 30 games. And what does JB famously say about it in 20 and 30 games?
Oh, sorry, I lost you there for a second.
So Ivy's coming back in about 20 and 30 games, right? Where they reach in between somewhere 20 and 30 games. And what has JB famously said about it? In 20 or 30 games?
Oh, I don't remember.
We're going to know who this team is. So that's why I say it's going to be inconsistent, because unfortunately, I think Ivy's going to come in the point where normally JB is like, okay, we got the set. Here's where we go, and I'm sure they planned for this of like, okay, this is how we see Ivy fit in, whatever. But it's still practice and theory. In theory, they have what they have, but in practice, very few players just come back in like that and are all good.
I mean, once we heard that he was going to be out to start the season, I mentioned like this is a disaster. Because even what I mentioned for Duran earlier, Ivy's playing for a contract. Like, so he's coming back from injury and still trying to show like I'm worth this and I can do like this. That is such a hard position to come back into. And how is the team playing? How does it fit? You already had the narrative, which I don't agree with, that the team got better when Ivy wasn't there last year. So, which totally false. But if they do start losing games when he does return, that's what people are going to start saying, like, "Oh, the team was better before he," all that nonsense. but it just and like to start the season, I had said like we need to see these guys so we can make, and we still didn't get to see them. Just like last season with Asar starting the season with the blood clot stuff, then Ivy getting hurt when he returns. It's like we want to see this group at full strength, and we still haven't gotten to see
Yeah, and we're saying this not to diss on Ivy and try and do that whole or yeah, they're better without him. It's just that it's going to be rough for that reason. And what even though it drives me bananas, Andy's whole thing of like, you guys see what these guys work with, what these guys look like together and how they work together. Still true, unfortunately. So prayers up to Ivy. Hopefully in 4 weeks he comes back and the 4 week reevaluation is like, okay, you're great. You know, it's really not a big deal. But then the hard part starts of reinvention, reintroducing him into the offense and then fitting in with everybody else. Andy, do you have anything else to say about the Pistons before we get out of here?
I do not. The only thing, do you know, is it the knee that's on the same side of the leg break, or is it the opposite knee?
I want to say it was the opposite because I think it was the front office show that said that.
Okay. Because, and honestly, that's something I would assume just in
Yeah.
terms of like overcompensating and just all the stuff that our body goes through.
Yeah, and
Talk
like
about it.
Cade with what was it, Cade's ankle, whatever, when he was like, "Oh, it's bothering me. It's been bothering me for a long time." Like with any player, that happens when you slow down and you take rest. All of a sudden, the rest of your body that did hurt was like, "Hey, guess what? You should take care of me too."
Yep.
And then when you get to be our age, yeah,
Everything just
it's
hurts when you get out of bed.
I was gonna say it's at the end or beginning of every day, right? So yeah, thank you so much for listening to us, Andy. One more time, where can everybody find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at D_D_Pistons_fan. I mean, and not to get us started on a conversation because we're saying goodbye, but then you hear that Anthony Davis is going to be out with leg injuries or whatever. So it's just like my son's a huge Luka Doncic fan. So that whole trade, poor Mavericks, poor guys.
Yeah, gee, I wonder why the Fire Nico chant still exists in all the games they've had. So, yeah, thank you so much for listening to us. Can't wait to get back here in 10 games, and hopefully we see a lot more improvement by then. So, we'll see you next time. We're going to